So like we were saying, like your story is where you can sometimes find your purpose or where you're being guided now. It didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And then having someone that will look into you and see the things that maybe you have a blind spot on is good, because a lot of times we can't see some of the things we're really good at. Like I'm really good at sales, and it took me years to realize I was good at sales. I didn't start even doing this podcast till about a year ago, because what I thought was just simple, this is what everyone should do, they don't do. So I think you need someone to come in your life and do that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we all need, like it takes a village. It just takes a village to do life, right? Life and business. And we say this all the time about raising kids, but I say it about raising businesses too. I have a coach. I've hired people to help me in different areas of my life or different areas of my business that I just don't have figured out, or that I don't have the expertise in. And it's the same. So we all need, it's like having a teacher in school. We had to get through third grade by way of having a teacher, right? So
Yep.
it's like, we don't stop learning just because we graduate high school or college. We actually continue to learn by leaning into each other. And so, it's no surprising that the coaching industry or the consulting industry is having such a dramatic rise now, because I think as we evolve as humans and as personal development becomes more and more mainstream, people realize they need those help, those guides, those mentors, those coaches that can help them with areas of their life or business where they need some support. And so thankfully that gives you work to do, that gives me work to do, and that work is really satisfying.
Yeah, when it shrinks time for them, because then they can take our experiences and shrink time. It took me a long time because I was bullheaded for a long time, because in the sales world, you're bullheaded. You try to do all this different things. And then I realized, you know what? It ain't working. So I would go to the top guy and ask, what are you doing differently than me? And I just started having to humble myself. And so when I've gotten into this space, I'm like, well, I'm going to work with this person and figure out what I need to learn here and work with that person. And I think when you do that, it opens up so much more networking for you that I think people don't realize. Like going to the event for George, like on my podcast here, I've had, of the 2 events I've been to George, probably of the 75 episodes I've dropped so far, I have more recorded. I probably have had 20 people from those events that I've brought onto my podcast. And then I've gotten on other people's podcasts because, like you said, it's a community, it's a village, it's a group. You can't be a solopreneur. Well, you can, but you're going to crash and burn. You need a community to surround yourself with. So let's shift a little bit here, because I know you do writing books and stuff like that. Do you do like live events as well? Is that something you're going to be doing, or do you already do that?
Yep. Yeah, we already do live events. So primarily what we do inside of Light Beamers, we have different, for lack of a better word, group coaching programs, but they're really programs that are aimed at a specific target. And I'll come back to that in a minute. We do live events. And we obviously have some digital courses and things like that you can take just to get some things they're more foundational. So it's maybe before you're ready to hire someone like me to come in, you can take some of our digital courses that'll kind of get you off the starting block. And then I have a membership site where that's also a place that people land where they want to dig into this work a little bit deeper. That's called the Visibility Accelerator. And we really focus on storytelling and visibility inside, because I have a strong media background. And so getting people placed in places is not hard for me. I understand exactly how to do it. And so I really try to teach people visibility strategies that are actually going to move the needle in their business, instead of just scrolling social media and saying a prayer, because that doesn't really work.
No, it does not.
So, podcasting, doing things like this, doing live events, speaking, a lot of that gets rolled into all of that. So like our group programs, we have some that are very geared towards speaking, and we have some that are very geared towards book writing, because that is a fantastic way to use visibility in the marketplace and tell your story, so they go hand in hand. So we just recently launched and released our very first community-wide book called Elevate Your Voice. This was a very divinely inspired piece of a content and a project that kind of just evolved from, I really feel like out of the pandemic, when I was thinking about how I wanted my work to be guided, I was in a place of prayer and seeking and just, asking like, okay, how can I help more? What is next? And this was at the very beginning of 2021, kind of coming off 2020 and going into 2021. And I literally said like, okay, Lord, what is it that you want me to do this year? Like, what's next? And what I heard very specifically, and I'm not one of these people that hears the voice of God.
I got you.
This was a moment where I heard elevate women's voices. And I thought, and I've already been doing this work for quite some time. And I thought, well, aren't I already doing that? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I kind of got that thing down. I'm really trying to elevate women's voices. Well, lo and behold, what I didn't realize was that meant writing a book and getting other women to write that book with me. So we started a collaborative project later in 2021. This all kind of fell into place because a publisher came to me because I have this pretty sizable community online and I work in the world of storytelling. And she said, we need to write a book and you need to tell these women's stories. And I said, oh yeah. So we kind of talked through that about getting these women to be published authors themselves. Like they need to write the story. Because remember, again, I'm here to teach the story. I'm not here to tell it for them.
Right.
So I said, okay, I will write with them and I'll write my story, but they will also write their story. So each woman wrote a chapter. It was myself and 13 other women. And we went on a 9-month journey of teaching them how to write their story, how to put that into a book, learn the ropes of publishing, working with copy editors and designers, working with photographers and, writing your bio for the book, learning how to launch a book. We went from A to Z on how to write and publish a book. And each of them wrote their story in a chapter. And in that process, these were women that were already in my community and I knew their stories. Some of them I had worked with before, some of them I hadn't, but it was an opportunity for me to help them go deeper. And so these stories, while they're all written by business women, they're very much deep personal stories. And we released that book in April of 2022 and to Amazon. And we hit #1 in women in business on the day that we launched. And we also hit, I think I have the other categories here. We hit #1 also in midlife management, which is another category. And then we were also listed in 6 other categories and we were in the top 20 in those other categories. So when I got that message to elevate women's voices, boy, did we. It was a huge success and it was something I'm insanely proud of. And so that set out on a journey then for me, because I was like, well, then we just got to go do more of that because that was amazing. So we're actually, we're actually in production now for our second book that will be called Step Into Your Brave. Step Into Your Brave. And that will come out this fall. And then we'll have a third book that I'm planning to write in 2023 with another group of women. So I have just decided this is a platform that I can easily build and I have built, and then I can have a place where women can come share that story. You weren't the only one coughing.
Yep. I've been muting my cough, but you were talking, so we could.
Yeah.
No worries.
I keep getting a tickle in my throat. But so that's like one of our group programs. We have another program coming out that's exactly like that, but for speakers. And then we have a live event that we do every year called the Storytelling Symposium. And we will be live this year, September of 2022. We will be in San Antonio, Texas. That's close to where I live. Nice. And so we'll be putting on a live event where we will have speakers and we will have networking, and a lot of women from our community will come together and meet each other for the first time. And people who are not in our community will come and learn about our community. It's always a great event. So it's a lot of mixture of all of that.
No, that is awesome. And as you might have heard, the puppy dogs are barking because my family just came home. So we just do live. We do live.
It's get crazy around here.
It is. No. So where can people find you? Because I know we've been talking about your books, your events, your groups. Where can they come and find you online or yeah?
Yeah. Online, I hang out primarily on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and I can be found at Light Beamers. If you search Light Beamers, you'll find me. I got that one cornered. So Light Beamers, all one word, and it's LIGHTBEAMERS. Also, we have our community, which is it's a Facebook group. It's so much more than a Facebook group, but that's where we're housed. But our community really is a true community. And that is called the Light Beamers Community. That's a Facebook group. But you can find everything if you just go to our website, lightbeamers.com. You'll find a link to the community. You'll find a link to the social channels. You can email me, April@lightbeamers. I'm pretty easy to find. And I welcome all DMs and emails and conversations. I'm a very friendly people person. I love to meet new people, and I am pretty much going to be asking you pretty quickly about things so that you'll share your story with me. I'm always appreciative of that.
No, that's awesome. And on your event, is that just for women or is that for women and men for the event? How is that?
We set that up originally. It's called the Storytelling Symposium to Empower Women, and it's been fascinating. This will be our 4th year. Mm-hmm. And by the 2nd year, I had men saying, well, can I come too? Mm-hmm. And I didn't expect that. I just didn't expect that men would even want to come. And so I got that. I misread that cue. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, well, okay, yeah, sure. I mean, as long as you're walking into a room full of women and mm-hmm. you can handle it, Yep. I'm not going to tailor my message because I'm doing this for women. But mm-hmm. if you want to be in the room, that means the world to us. When men come forward and say, we want to be in the room because we want to learn from you guys. We mm-hmm. want to understand you better. We want to champion you. This means a lot to women because, especially if you're coming with that intention, because women, this is another reason why I primarily focus on women and women's stories is because, women have not always had that invitation to have a seat at the table. And so I decided to go build our own damn table. And that was very important to me. And so I've always wanted to make space for women's stories to be shared, for women mm-hmm. to be heard and seen. But if men want to come along for the ride, it is an open invitation for that as well.
No, and I love that because I think it might have been at George's event. Isn't it like 60 to 70% of people that attend events are women in general? So if that's the case, and something I did, I actually had a girl on here or a lady on here named Kimba. She's a CEO of a roofing company. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is empower more women's voices just on my podcast.
Thank you.
There's so many. Yeah. I have 2 daughters. It makes sense to me. Like I have a son too. So I have the whole gambit, but it just makes sense if the event in the self-help space is filled with it. We need more women speakers. We just do.
We need more women speakers, more women thought leaders, more women authors and writers, which is mm-hmm. why, I have programs for speaking and we're getting those women on stages. And I have this program for the book and we're getting these women published because you're right. The disparity is still very evident. In the year 2022, we're still trying to climb and close those gaps. And that's just gender. We can go off and talk mm-hmm. about, the disparity of Black women, Asian women. I mean, then you get into the subcultures of that and it's really awful, but it's super important to me. It's something I'm extremely passionate about.
Awesome. No. And I love it. That's like I said, I want to support anyone that wants to have a voice. I think they should have a voice and a seat at the table. That's just kind of how my whole mind works. So what other words of wisdom, thoughts would you want to impart to the listeners? I mean, we talked about a lot, but
I think that if anything, if they get one thing out of listening to me today, that the listener is more curious about their own story, that they are asking themselves, well, geez, what is my story? And that they will have heard that story is worth exploring and it's worth sharing. that it's not for nothing, right? The story is there for a reason, and to go deeper into that and to look at storytelling from that lens, because the story that's inside of someone is worth sharing. And it's a very potent story that maybe just hasn't been released out into the light. And once you do, it's a really, really gorgeous experience. So that would be what I would encourage people with today, is just, if you hear nothing else, just hear that your story matters.
Yeah, I love that. April, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you. And for all of you,
thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. And for all of you listening, thank you for listening. Remember, your story matters. You're worth it. I know I started with this quote, but I'm going to end with this quote. We're all stories in the end. Make it a good one. Go chase your dreams, catch your dreams, impact people, love well, and be authentically you. And until next time, have a wonderful evening.